Lifeboat Live. We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the Lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the Lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Monday here on the Lifeboat. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass is my partner, Mark Wages. Boy, you remember last night? I kind of bailed off of the Lifeboat. Like, it was, if you watched the show, I even had a couple of people reach out to me and said, boy, you're really trying to get off. I knew I was leaving in the middle of the night, literally, to drive to the Bay Area. Right, I had to put a car on a boat that we were sending to Hawaii, and so it was a carpool kind of a thing, you know, where I follow one car out there. So we had to be up before 4, so it didn't leave a large window of time. But yeah, I was just telling my bobbleheaded partner before we went live. At 1 o'clock, I was in San Francisco. And with the wind at my back and everything going really well, I got here with about 30 minutes to spare. You know, as happens on every road trip, we thought, oh man, we're going to be there with so much time. Like, we're way ahead of schedule. And we came around the last corner by Truckee, California, where you can almost see the border of Nevada, and it was just a parking lot. You know, they had choked everything down to one lane, and it took us probably 40 minutes to get through that little congestion. And then, you know, it was right back to, 10 minutes and we were here, but it was just frustrating. I want to thank everybody that has been commenting, all of the people that have been sharing the videos, all of you who hit the like button as soon as you get here. It may seem like a really insignificant thing, but what that does for the algorithm is huge. When you hit the thumbs up button on the way in, it leads the people at the big red button to think that, you know what, this audience is already engaged, and it changes what happens with how they push out the live stream that we're on. And it has been growing the boat at a really great clip. You know, it's exciting when every time you go and look, there's just, you know, a much bigger number than there was the last time you looked. And I just want to thank everybody, and it's humbling.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, we've always said that we're two of the luckiest guys on YouTube, and you know, we just seem to get luckier, which is a beautiful thing. Brandon, thank you, my friend. He says, "Did you say the like button?"
and you know, just real quick, Tommy.
Yeah.
Guys, when we look at that number, we actually, and I know it sounds like we're just saying this, but when we see that, we actually see more people that we can help. That's exactly what goes through our mind, because we very seldom do we have a conversation where it's just like, man, do you see them sucky numbers or anything like that? Because a lot of times on those videos, we feel it's good because we'll get an overall like lower number, right, Tommy? Like it'd be like 300 or something, but we'll carry 50 or 55 people in the chat. So it's like, I know we're affecting people, so it doesn't matter to us, is what I'm trying to say.
Correct. And it's funny that you say that, because when you start to go through and look at the metrics, and we told you guys when we came back for season 2 that we were you guys and gals. Apparently, I'm offensive. I got an email about that. When I say you guys, I'm offensive, which I think with all the things I do, that's what offends you. Like, I was blown away. But anyway, when you people, right? When we came back for the second season, we said we were going to do some inside baseball stuff with you. The amount of time that the average person watches the Lifeboat is about 4.5 times what the average is for YouTube, which is just, I mean, like Mark said, that the numbers don't mean as much, but they really do mean people that can get helped, and that's why we started this. It really is the only reason we do this. And another thing that is a new phenomenon, you forget about the videos you did in the past. You just forget about them. There's 500 of them, or 550 or something.
Something like
but,
that. Yeah.
But a lot of the new folks that have just become crew members are going back and watching a lot of those early videos, especially the first couple, and leaving comments on them. So it's really wild to go back in there and go, good Lord, they just watched a video that was 14 months old, or whatever the case may be. But it really is exciting stuff, people. And this kind of dovetails into what we're talking about a little bit tonight, because the purpose of what we were doing is to try to help people get sober. We're not trying to build the world's biggest YouTube channel. We're not trying to become famous or popular or any such thing. But we really are trying to give people an avenue to sobriety, and especially with individuals who have struggled with some of the other formats that are out there. Before I get going, because just our thumbnail is going to offend some people, right? It is the way it is. But before I get going, we have said from the very first time that we started the show that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And it was, 2 individuals at Alcoholics Anonymous that discovered the fact that individuals who abuse substances could help each other get sober. And prior to that sort of epiphany, there was no treatment, right? Doctors didn't think there was one. All of the people with tons of letters after their name had basically thrown their hands in the air and given up hope. And a couple of people with a drinking problem came up with something that we've been riding solid ever since. Now, that being said, and we've talked about this before, I've got some issues with the 12-step programs, not based on what they did. What they did, I think, is fantastic. And then times changed, and people got involved in this that never should have got involved in this. If you can find a 12-step program that doesn't have any court-ordered people in it, which is a very rare thing. It can happen. There are people who kind of have put together that it's being watered down. It's being watered down by people being forced to be in the room who do not want to be there. And I mean, we say it all the time, right? You're not going to get sober until you're ready to get sober. But a judge is going to tell you that you have to go do 90 meetings in 90 days. That doesn't mean that you're going to be ready to get sober. More often than not, what it means is you're going to be ready to disrupt. You're going to walk in there wasted. And it's one thing if you're in there and you're using and you're there because you want to stop using, right? That's a beautiful thing. And I don't think, there are too many people that would feel uncomfortable with that. But the last time I went to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, there were 2 guys in the back with their heads painted to their chest, completely knotted out. And I looked across at them, and a guy sitting 3 seats away, went like this and opened his mouth, and his entire mouth was filled with balloons, right? This was a guy that, was ready to sell to anybody in the room. And I thought, you know what? No, I'm not doing this. I got up, I walked out, and I even told my probation officer at the time, I said, you know what, dude, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. This is not where I need to be. This is not something that is going to help me in any way, shape, or form with my sobriety going forward. So I'm gone. And, I relapsed. I ended up back in prison. I caught a new case. I lost another wife, another family, another home, another car, right? A bunch of watches. And then I met somebody that said to me, you know what? You don't have to do that the way that everybody else does it. If it doesn't work for you, then there's a reason why it doesn't work for you. And that's genius, people. It really is. So I'm not saying that people can't get sober with the 12-step programs, because the number of people who are going to get sober using that method are going to outnumber the Lifeboat in the best possible case scenario by probably 20,000 to 1, right? They have helped millions and millions of people get sober, but they could not help me. Bottom line, they couldn't. Yeah, absolutely. It was successful. Yeah, it was successful. Yeah, best of intentions, right? I mean, and you're right, Mark. They looked around at everything that was happening in recovery, and they said, "Boy, there's only one thing working. This 12-step stuff is great, right? It's absolutely working. People are going through that program and they're getting sober. Let's make everybody that comes through the door go to that." Like, completely not understanding the concept of somebody walking into that room because they are looking for a better way. Instead, we have people walking into that room because they need a signature on a piece of paper. And it not only does that wash down, and sort of weaken the entire system, but I think as we get into the new millennium here, the technology has changed. All kinds of things have changed, and one of the things that makes internet meetings like this so fantastic is that people can share things that they probably wouldn't have stood up in the middle of an AA or an NA meeting and said comfortably, because no one's looking at them, and they may have the name might be Happy in Vegas. Okay, well, we don't have any idea who Happy in Vegas is. This really is anonymous, right? With the exception of a couple of us whose faces are kind of plastered here all the time. It really gives people, especially when they're first starting to get sober, it gives them the opportunity to come here and share things that they may have had to be 2 years into, sobriety before they would have been willing to start coming out with that kind of honesty. And, it also gives us the opportunity to see people from not just all walks of lives, but people from every part of the planet. We've got people on the Lifeboat currently from 27, Squirrel is not happy, I've been gone all day, from 27 different countries. And what we have found is that everybody here is exactly the same. It doesn't matter whether, you're from Europe, you're from the States, it does not matter. We are all suffering with the same thing. And it also gives people the opportunity to come and learn about addiction and not be pigeonholed into anything, right? So this isn't AA, this isn't NA, this isn't Overeaters Anonymous, it's not Gambling Anonymous, it's not pornography or sex or any of it. People, the science behind what's going on in the brain, and they're getting better at this every single day. The technology with the ability to photograph and to video what is going on in your brain, and to document the fact that the brain of an addict is different than the brain of a non-addict, and really start to get a real bead on this malfunctioning reward center that we talk about so often here on the Lifeboat, right? The reward center of your brain, which was designed, and if you've heard this 100 times, people, get ready to hear it 100 more. This literally is the backbone of everything that we do. When you understand that inside your body, inside your brain, we were given a chemical that's a drug, right? And it's the best drug in the world. If you don't believe that, then you don't understand the concept. Because even when we're using other drugs, what we're really chasing is that drug in our brain, right? That's really what we're going for. Like the first time you do, a line of cocaine, you're going to get such a endorphin dump. You're going to get all of the feel-good chemicals from your reward center are going to flood your brain. It is never going to happen again, by the way. Not the same way. And it's like that with virtually every addiction. So we just start chasing that first initial feeling. It's a malfunctioning reward center. What's happening in the brain is saying to you, just like it said that little baby you were just handed in the emergency room is the most important thing in the entire world. You need to love it. You need to take care of it. You need to nurture it. This is your responsibility. And you instantly bond with that child. Anybody who has a kid knows exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
Well, if the reward center of your brain does that to a bag of heroin or a blast of coke or methamphetamine or booze, and if you don't believe this is the case, when you talk to someone who has an alcohol use disorder, right? They open a drink, shake it, and when the liquid hits their lips, that shaking stops.
Immediately.
Instantly.
Yep.
They begin to feel better. Well, we know from science, right, that alcohol didn't get in their system. You know, it's going to be a very long time in the sense of drugs, right? Because it could take 10 minutes, for this to really start doing the what its goal is in the body, right? The alcohol is going to take a minute to get in there. However, just letting that hit your lips is usually enough, and it's the same thing regardless of your drug. As someone who was addicted to opiates, getting the bag in my hand was usually enough to get me home. And what I mean by that is that, you're 10, 15 miles from the house in a parking lot, vomiting, every single muscle in your body, clenched, and you're just feeling the worst pain that you can describe, and a brain that's just screaming, for you to fix this problem.
Yep.
And it's a torture. It's torture on earth.
It's
And
similar.
then the guy
It's,
shows up. Go ahead.
it's similar to like a placebo effect. It really is. It's
No question.
It's
No question. That's the entire concept behind the placebo effect.
Yep.
Is that if a person believes that something is happening, very often addicts who use needles will fix water, because for a period of time the brain is going to go, oh cool, we just did this, and for a period of time it's actually going to bring some relief. Carol says, I heard about this channel from Marfugal. We love the
Marfugal's awesome.
The Marfugal fam has been so good to this little channel.
Yeah.
Honestly, we can't say enough great things about them. For
I-
real, what a great
I-
group of people.
I have to say that, guys, I do Wages World for people that don't know. That channel, oh my God, you guys just don't even understand how much he built my channel, honestly. Him and,
Right.
a few others that helped me too, and that's, I know it's kind of off topic, but man, I just, there's so much gratitude there. And not only has that happened, we built a really good friendship, and that's what happens with good people, guys. And that's why me and Tommy will never send you to somebody that's negative. It's just not, Anyway, I just wanted to say that. Fugal, Adam,
Jeff
and Dex.
Jeff says, I can't stand spending $10 on a new pair of socks, but I'll spend $200 at the bar, easy. Pleasure center. Yeah, once your reward center gets hijacked, and that was squirrel on the back of the chair. Once the reward center of your brain gets hijacked, you're no longer in control. And as scary as that is, when you're in the light, the fact that is a real, a phenomenon that is absolutely real, in a lot of ways makes forgiving oneself a lot easier to do. It makes sense of all of the ridiculous things that we've done. If I could tell you how many times I've heard people say no one in their right mind would do that, right? Who in their right mind? Well, no, we're not in our right mind, right? Our right mind isn't working. That's an absolute fact. That is what is going on. So yeah, back to the 12-step programs, people. So the malfunctioning reward center is something that we hammer home, because it's the basis and the backbone of everything that we do here. Good cat. Now, when I started to work with the gentleman that helped me get sober and really helped change my life, I sat down on a blank piece of paper and I wrote down all of the reasons I no longer wanted to be, and I'm going to use the term, I'm not insulting anyone else, I'm talking about me. I didn't want to be a junkie anymore, which is what I was. And I sat down and wrote all of the reasons why I didn't want to be a junkie. And I'll be really honest with you, most of them had very little to do with me. It was people that I really cared about, who I knew that I had been letting down. And, wanting to be there for my daughter, wanting to be free. When this was happening, I was incarcerated and I never wanted to go back again. I knew that if I could not get this off my back. If I could not quit this substance, then I was going to die in prison. And that was a reality that was so terrifying to me. So when I was done filling out a list of all of the reasons that I wanted to quit, which, by the way, he forced me to take a full day doing, right? Paring things down, getting the most important stuff, putting them in a type of order. A High Island girl, good to see you. She said, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So the second page, right? He wanted me to do what people in a 12-step program would call a moral inventory, right? Except the way it was described to me was, if there were 4 guys in a room and you weren't one of them, and I went in and said, hey, what's Tommy like? Just be real honest. He's never going to hear about this. How would they describe you? The people who know you best, how would they describe you? And, the very first thing that came to mind was liar, and everything that came to mind under that kind of assignment was painful. And the crazy thing is that after about 2 or 3 hours, I went back and I was like, hey, I'm done. And he was like, oh, you're not. You're not. Like, this is going to take a very long time. What do you call a sad cup of coffee? Espresso. Well played, Seven. And it, I was really wrestling with this. This was something that was really quite painful for me to come to grips with who I had become, what I was as a human being. And when I was done making that list, people, I owned it for the first time in my life, right? And we talk about this a lot on the boat. We own our past, right? We don't blame it on other people. We don't talk about the woe is me stuff. That victimhood stuff will kill you. Yep. It will keep you wasted. It will give you an excuse to continue to drug yourself. You know what? There are plenty of reasons why people may have done you really dirty and really caused a lot of your addiction. Nevertheless, you're the one that did it. And if you don't own that, I promise you're never going to get well. You're never going to get well. You might get clean for a while, right? You might get chemical free. You might even be able to white knuckle it for a period of time. But to get sober, right? To get to that point where you're not thinking about the drug anymore and you're moving on with your life. It's no longer an issue. You're just not a drinker anymore, or you're not someone that uses opiates anymore. We don't use the word cure because we don't believe there is a cure. But that phase of your life is over. Unless you do something just unbelievably stupid, right? And probably by accident. Because I really believe that when you get to that point, you're going to have a very solid base, right? The third page was...
Before you go into that, Tommy, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Roxanne made a comment. I'm saying this because it's amazing that she said that, and then you went talking about exactly how you went down about this. Since I've been watching videos that ask you to take an honest account of what good has happened from using or drinking. I mean, it's the same. It's the same stuff, guys.
If you're trying to fill out, I'm not sure that I could come up with one thing on a piece of paper. Yeah. Opiates were great when I was truthfully injured, right? That would take one line on that piece of paper. I couldn't write anything else. The amazing thing, Sig, good to see you, bud.
Yep.
And it's good to see Rip too. Oh, the gang's all here. Drugs and alcohol, especially when you get to the addiction part of it, give you nothing, right? What have they done for you? Nothing. Drugs don't give you things. They take things away, right? That is the purpose of it. And one of the, as we started to work through the sobriety, it was one of the questions he used to ask all the time. After page 3, which was me having the opportunity to say, if there were 4 guys in a room and you had them describe who you wish you were, right? What would they be saying? Who would the new Tommy be? And, honest was the first thing I put at the top. And it read almost like a complete opposite of a lot of the things that I had written down. I wanted to be reliable. If I told somebody I was going to get something done on Tuesday, I wanted to get it done on Tuesday. I wanted my word to be my bond. And I wanted to be one of those people where if $100 ended up coming missing, I was the last person they looked at. Now, we know that probably for the rest of our life, if I'm in the room, if I'm in the neighborhood and something comes up stolen or missing, I'm the first suspect.
Once again, 100.
I earned that. Once again, I own that. I was a thief. for decades, and it might suck. It doesn't feel good, but you know, the indignant stuff that we do, like, how dare you? I've been sober for a while. Oh, you spent 3 decades sticking needles in your arm and stealing stuff. So now you're 5 to 6 years sober, and we're all just going to forget, right, the entire life you lived before that. It's different for them than it is for us. You understand that? You know, they see you and they go, wow, he's doing great. You're getting up every morning feeling like a new creature. It's not always perfectly aligned, right? As you start to work your way through this, one of the beautiful things about the lack of structure, for me, I'm not, you know, forcing this onto anybody, but the reason the kind of structure that we use on the Lifeboat works for me better than some of the other systems is because anytime you start doing something through with a structured, well, no, we're not getting to there yet, right? That's level 6, or that's the 5th step, or that's, if somebody starts feeling like there is something going on right now and I'm going to share it with everybody here, very oftentimes there are epiphanies that people on the Lifeboat get, not because of something I said, but because of something that someone else in the chat said. When someone comes here and says, I'm really hurting, and people start firing back and forth with support. This is the best of what a group meeting ought to be, without a lot of the crap, right? You can sit here and be really quiet and listen to everything. No one's ever going to say to you, what's your sobriety date? You know, how long you been? You share what you want to share. You can lurk for 2 years,
Yep.
right? You can lurk for 10 years. It really matters not. It is a forum that allows people to really start working through things at whatever rate they feel possible. And I have seen people come into the Lifeboat and do things at a speed which is astounding, right? It's absolutely astounding. One of the other things that really is a problem for a lot of people is that in a traditional 12-step program, they lean really heavy on a God thing. And I don't have a problem with that, people, right? I've made my my religious beliefs, you know, I don't force them on people, but I've made them, you know, known to anybody on the Lifeboat. I am a believer. But if you're not, someone trying to structure something and shove it down your throat, and you hear things that are so stupid they make you want to get up and walk out of a meeting, right? Well, you don't need to have a higher power. You can make your doorknob a higher power. What?
Yeah.
If it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you're getting ready to call the dope man, that doorknob isn't going to help you not make that phone call. Now, you want a power greater than yourself and you don't believe in God. Do you know what a power greater than yourself is? If there were 2 of you, that would be greater than 1 of you, right?
Yep.
So if you've got a group of people that meet 5 days a week and are there for one another, you can just go to one of the forums and type in, hey, I'm hurting, right? Or start calling any of the people whose numbers you've got from the boat and just reach out to people. It's not that structured, this is your sponsor, right? You call this individual, and call anybody on the boat. We have come to believe, and there's research to back this up, that if you're getting ready to do that really stupid decision that will make you regret everything and feel like, oh, everything I worked for is done and I have to start counting over, which, by the way, is also ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know, if you use once in 2 years, you got to start a new sobriety day. What you need to do is sit and consciously think to yourself, so in the last 700 days, I used once, right? How much better am I than I used to be? But so often people get so bummed out by the fall that guilt keeps them in a relapse mode for a month, 2 months, 2 years. I've seen people fall off the wagon and never get back on it. Right? There's a different mindset that I think this format instills in people, and it gets people working through.
Yeah, I want to read that comment real quick.
Okay.
Noise Opera. The first time I really started trying to be positive was over on Chase the Heat's channel, and now the Lifeboat has helped me so much more this past year. And I would ditto that, because guys, that's how me and Tommy met. You know, I was watching Johnny do what he does over there because he is a positive person. If he had not been positive, I would not be here. That's just the God's honest truth. That's how things work. We all find each other, and that's what's happening. So,
grace over guilt. The applicant. Welcome to the Lifeboat. It's a very cool thing to say, right? It's a very cool thing to say. Unfortunately, when you start meeting in person, there is a certain dynamic that is going to start taking place that you cannot avoid. As much as we would like to, we're not wired that way. You understand? As social beings, there are problems built into our gray matter. There are things that make us antisocial, even when we're trying to be social. So when you bring a bunch of people into a room to try to get sober, they click up. Johnny, good to see you. They click up. If you've gone to these meetings, you can't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. You walk in the door, and there's a group of 4 people over here talking, and there's a group of 6 people over here talking, and people instantly tend to get into these small cliques. And what happens? Well, here we are again, feeling like we don't fit in, right? We find ourselves going, this is just like what I was doing before I got here, right? I don't fit into society, and now I don't fit in here. I'm not a guy that has a problem talking in front of people. I'm not a guy that has a problem with any kind of social interaction. But I remember going into those meetings and thinking, there's nobody here that really wants me,
He might read Jay Miller's comment there.
Yeah, you know what? That was the one that I saw. He says, much love to all. I am finally finding the strength to interact. I am an only child of my mother's alcoholism and found that I raised my kids with the ICK. I don't know what that is. I know no abbreviations. I'm sorry.
That one actually going over my
ICK mindset, and I'm now learning to heal myself. That's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. My question to you, Jay Miller, is if we were all staring at you, would it have been as easy?
Yeah.
Now, and I'm not saying that you're not going to get to that. And I'm not saying that this is what you have to do for the rest of your life. But when you start in the process, when the window opens, right? And all of a sudden you're ready to go. You really want to quit. Getting up, getting out the door, getting into a car, putting your keys in it, driving down the same street that every time you turn left at, you're at the liquor store. Or every time you turn right, you're at the dope dealer's house. And you're going to have to drive straight by that to go and get to this meeting. And more often than not, people don't end up there. The window is fragile. It doesn't stay open very long. We've talked about this. It slams really quickly. So anything that gets in the way of that, how many times have you said, well, I was on my way to a meeting, but I was getting ready to do that. I was going to go to one on Wednesday. You can sit in your room, and when that feeling comes on, you just get on the net. And there's a group of people who don't click up like it happens in other groups. And why not? Because we can't just go off and sit in corners. Everybody says, when I come to the Lifeboat, every single person there welcomes me. Do you know what that does to me and Mark? For real. Because we have absolutely nothing to do with that. Yep. I don't believe that there's ever been one day where we said, hey, when someone comes here, make sure you welcome them with open arms.
Right.
Never happened. It never happened.
Never had to.
When we started to talk about the potential, thank you, Noise Opera. I love Noise Opera. He's come so far, dude. He really has.
Yep.
But when we started talking about what we wanted out of this channel, I remember saying to Mark, if all goes well, 6 months, a year into this, people are going to be getting as much out of the people in the comments section as they'll ever get out of us. And I'm not kidding you, people. The next day, Mark was like, "Did you read any of the comments on the last video?"
Yeah.
It ain't going to take 6 months.
Yeah.
And just the way that yes, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole and became a workaholic. Instead, I am retired. Okay, well.
Well, Johnny said it earlier in the chat, Tommy. He said it really well. That it's not nothing happens by accident. This is all together, right? I mean,
no question.
And we're not controlling this. This is just doing what it's supposed to do. And it's
you're absolutely right. And here's the thing: as much as I'm not bad-mouthing 12-step programs, I'm not. Right? They're working right now in places all over the world. People are getting sober in that format. I can't. So I wanted there to be a place that worked for guys like me and Mark, right? And what we have found since we started this is there's a lot of people who felt the same way when they went to these meetings. They just didn't feel like they fit in. And, the inability to fit in, we say all the time here on the Lifeboat that the opposite of addiction is what? Right?
Okay.
Is connection. Yeah, it's not sobriety. It's not anything like that. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yep.
So this gives people the opportunity to connect instantly. Right? The first time you come here, people are going to reach out and connect to you. It's one of those things that happens right off the bat.
Well, it's the most negative part of the internet that we turn to a positive is what's happened.
Absolutely. Reimagining social media.
Yep. Trolls use it for negativity. We use it for good.
Aaron Jones says, 47 people viewing with only 33 likes. Go smash that like button. You know what? I love you guys. I really do. And it is, look, it's bringing in a bigger crowd of people that we have a shot at helping, really. And the one of the things that we do, people say you can lead a horse to water, right? But you can't make him drink. The real question, the real thing is you can't lead a horse to water. You honestly can't. We have absolutely no ability to go out and beat the bushes and drag people to the Lifeboat. Now, we got the message. A bunch of you have reached out and said you would like a pamphlet, a card, something that you could hand to people in person that would tell them about the Lifeboat. We're going to do it. We're going to make that happen. So that will be a reality. But for the most part, people find us because of the big red button, right? That's how people find us. And, my brother likes to say regularly that, when the student is willing, the teacher appears. And so many people come across the boat at the right time. And every time, it's nothing that I say. It's nothing that Mark says. What happens is they get here and they get bombarded by people that say, man, we're so glad you're here. If there's anything we could do for you, you're going to love this. Everybody here is kind. We don't judge people. We're never going to make you feel, anything about anything. You want to share, go ahead and share. If you're not sober yet, we love you. Yeah, we're going to love you the same way, whether you're using or whether you're sober. How do you judge someone who's not sober yet when you spent 30 years sticking needles in your arms? And this happens. Right? Have you ever gone to a meeting on the street where they'll go up to somebody and say, hey, we can't have you in here like this? For real. They got signs at the one here in town. Cannot come in here if you're using. It's like saying at the cancer ward, you can't come into the oncology ward, you have cancer. Right? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Kicking somebody out. I had a very stressful weekend and I am proud with how I did it. Well done, brother. Well done. And I know he did. My brother was down in Dallas, and there was film crews and all kinds of stuff that a famous person has to deal with, and legend has to deal with. So we're glad that you got through there. Niall said, addicts are extraordinary people. We are talented. We destroy everything and then try to rebuild a sense of ourselves, which we can live with. Those who love us know this too well. Yeah, there's really a lot of truth to that. And one of the other things that really has come out since we started the boat is that when you find your way out of that forest, right? When you are able to get out of the dark and into the light, it's very unique how addiction leaves a mark on you that will never go away. I don't care how long you're sober. I don't care how happy you are. I am the happiest dude on the planet. I'm telling you, people, I love life. I don't like going to bed, and I love getting up. I'm living the dream. I really am. And everything is going great. And I couldn't be any happier. But it left a big mark on me. And for that reason, if I see somebody that comes here and they're under the influence, I remember those days. You know what I mean? I remember wanting what the sober people had and having no idea how to get it. And having people basically run me off for being wasted. And people, I was wasted, 24 hours a day. I'm not kidding you. I used to get up in the middle of the night to fix.
I remember doing that.
Yeah, because you don't want to wake up sick, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, you get up in the middle of the night, chew a few pills, or you get up in the middle of the night and take a shot. Like it progresses to a point where that's a kind of illness that you either understand or you don't. And once you're out of that life, it's going to leave that mark on you. I think that it's a crying damn shame that the 12th step of AA and NA, you got to get to that through 11 steps before that's something you set out to do.
Yeah.
We know from science, right, that giving does more for your brain than dope. It does more for your brain than sex. It does more for your brain than love. Servitude to others literally does more for you than anything that they can study. But what we want to do is put you through hell before you can start giving back in any way, right? And there are steps along the way that we've talked about here. One of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen was somebody working the step where they make amends. You understand this concept, right? You're going to reach out to all of the people who you hurt, right?
Jill makes a comment here I want to read real quick. Says
Go ahead.
says his dream is to be able to live normally without alcohol. I just think that's a good dream.
I'll tell you something.
It could be a reality though. So
It is so within your grasp.
Yep.
I know that right now it seems like, we talk all the time about, you get chemical free, and when you do, if alcohol is the poison, right? The nice thing is that in about 7 to 14 days, your brain chemistry will get normal after you stop. There are drugs that take a couple of years, right? Alcohol, you can bounce back from fairly quickly. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it is. And once you get clean, it's not going to be that, like, the clouds aren't going to open up, the sun's not going to come out, and you're not going to hear that music. And I think it's important that we tell people the truth, because as addicts, we build up in our head that if I could just get rid of that booze, everything would be perfect. That's what we build in our head. And sobriety becomes something more than just not using, right? It becomes the lottery ticket that you got all of the right numbers on, including the Powerball. By the time you actually quit, Tamara Morgan, I don't know that we've ever said, no, thank you so much, Tamara.
yeah, she actually dropped because she said the 12 steps works for her, and most certainly can. And that's what we're trying to.
Absolutely,
it's awesome that worked for you. And believe it or not, guys, I have my NA book, which is AA, right, Tommy? It's just for narcotics. I hold that thing dear to my heart. I promise you. I use the tools in that thing all the time. It's, and I think what we're saying and what Tommy's trying to say is
no mistake.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that people can't get sober through the 12th step. In fact, statistically speaking, it's probably the most successful program in history.
Oh yeah.
For getting people sober, and by a long shot. By the way, by a long shot. Unfortunately, I don't think that they evolved at the same rate as drug addiction did. I don't think they evolved in the same way. When NA started, you went to a payphone and you put 50 cents in a payphone. You called a guy on a pager, right? You put in your number. He called you back at that payphone, and you talked about where you were going to meet at what time, or you went to a drug dealer's. Now you call the dope man, and he's at your house in 10 minutes, like Domino's Pizza, and you can do that any place in America. It literally has gotten to that point, right? So it has changed so much. Social media. You realize that there are people on Instagram who just sling dope. You'll come across the page and go, how is this even possible, right?
Yeah.
But the technology has really done a lot to make addiction far more difficult for people. I think it's about time that it gives people an out as well, But for me, I'm just telling people how the reason that these things didn't work for me. One of the things that upset me the most was watching somebody make amends, right? I saw a guy, and they tell you, you don't do this if it's going to harm anybody, right? Make amends when you can. You never want to harm anybody in the process of doing that, right? But I knew a guy that called and apologized to a friend of his. He said, I want to, I got really, really smashed at one of your Christmas parties, and, making a pass at your wife. I know that. And he just went on for a long time about, he was very aggressive. Well, this guy's wife never mentioned that to the husband. Right? Now, I'm sure she didn't mention it to the husband because she thought, this is his best friend. He's going to go and kill the guy or lose his mind. And, no, he's drunk, no harm, no foul. We didn't go anywhere with it. But this was a divorceable offense by the time this was done. In the husband's mind, the reason that she didn't tell him was because obviously there was something there. And that jealousy gene that so many guys have literally drove the guy insane. And these kind of things happen a decent amount. Like there are plenty of stories. I think you really need to work through the problems and the guilt that you have. There's no question. But, you know, hey, you know what, Mark? I want to apologize for the jackwagon that I was. The number of things that I did to offend you when I was on dope, you know, I could talk about it for the next 6 months.
Right.
Please just watch me because I've turned the corner. I don't expect you to believe that, but watch me. And I hope that I can earn back some of the respect and some of the trust that we had at one point in our relationship, right? To go through and rehash every single one of those things. If you need that in order to clean your soul, go tell it to somebody that you didn't harm, right? I could go just to Mark and say, hey, Johnny, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like going to my brother and doing this.
Yeah.
I could do it to Mark, or I could do it to anyone else on the boat. You understand that sorry, Fox 1265.
Yep.
He was thinking too much. Yeah.
Well, he was. Yeah, he's been here for a second. Good to see you, Fox. Yeah.
No, you mean the husband? Absolutely, was thinking too much. But this is the kind of thing that can happen.
Well, he says the earlier. I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
He was just saying all thoughts are lies all the time. That's what he was saying, and that could be true a lot of the time.
Well, when you're under the influence, right?
Yeah.
When you are in active addiction, right? Now we're talking about a part of the brain that we call the striatum, right? And the striatum is a part of your brain that basically, you remember when the doctor used to hit you in the knee with the little thing and your knee would go flicking out, right? It's just a pure reflex. Okay, well, the striatum is a reflex in the brain that it says every time this happens, I'm going to do this. If without this part of our brain, we would get about 6 things done during the day, right? When you tie your shoes, the striatum is the part of your brain that says, I don't need to concentrate on this. I could just bang this out because I've done it 2,000 times, right? Or anytime somebody does this, congratulations. Linda says, my son is no longer using meth. Thank God.
That's awesome, Linda.
How cool is that?
Wow.
How cool is that? So the striatum says 1 + 1 = this. If this happens, I'm going to do that. And we train the striatum over a very long period of time, right? It's called the reactive brain. Well, if you're using dope full time, right? What have you told the reactive part of your brain? Well, when I get really stressed, I'm going to drink. Yeah, that'll help take the stress away.
Yep.
If I'm really successful and I'm doing great, I'm going to drink. So now anytime one of these emotions comes up, you have a part of your brain that is literally going like this. Okay, go ahead and drink. And I've used this illustration before. How many times have you been driving home and you're thinking about, a conversation you had with your significant other, or you're thinking about, something that happened at work, and the next thing you know, you're at home and you literally can't remember the last 2 miles. You don't know if you caught one red light. You don't know if anything happened.
Sig. Wow. Thank you, buddy. Wow, Siggy.
Wow.
That's very generous, brother.
That really is.
Guys, let me say something about Sig here real quick, Tommy. He has supported so many positive channels, and I don't see him supporting anything negative, and this is wise because these are the kind of people that we attract, right, Tommy? I mean, we're all positive, and this is what you see. And he wouldn't do that if he didn't believe in what we were doing. I know Sig behind the scenes, and he would not. I promise you, he would not. And this man struggles with a lot of stuff. And that's why he's here, and that's why we've all talked. And that's, guys, for him to do something like that, you have to understand that's big. That's big for him. And
I really appreciate that, Sig.
It is. I love him, man. I really do.
People that I think this is, my partner just brings up a really kind of important point too. There is so much negativity on the net that one of the things that happens, especially on the big red button, is you start to find yourself on channels that don't go down that road. Like there's absolutely nothing negative there. They're not doing fear porn, right? They're not trying to capitalize on fear. They're not trying to, capitalize on negativity or any of that stuff. And a funny thing happens. You'll see the same names. You might be on 5 different channels, but you're going to run into the same name. I have seen Sig in so many of the places that I show up. And And Mark's right. He supports every one of those channels, which I think is just
Well, wait.
above and beyond.
Wait for it said earlier, Tommy. Oh, by the way, we got Brandon in here too. We'll get Brandon in
We
here.
owe Brandon.
Yeah,
don't
we do. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you, Brandon, but I'm gonna go ahead and finish my sentence here real quick. Wait for it was in here saying, "Hey, I seen you over on I found you. I seen you on Marfugal, and then I seen you on Wages World afterwards, and nobody ever recommended anything." So it's amazing how that happens, right? He found both channels without me saying Marfugal or without Marfugal saying Wages World. It's just crazy.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
Stuff rising to the top. Man.
We find each other, guys. I promise you. And that's why. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know it sounds probably kind of sappy or whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. It's just the truth.
No, that's good stuff. And Heather says this. This is huge. Heather says, "I feel teens these days don't drink like we did. I've got news for you people. Teens these days do not do anything like we used to do, right?
Yeah.
I used to smoke pot every day in high school. That was my intro. If you've watched any of the old videos, I go through all this stuff. But I started out as a weed smoker, and I got to the point where I was smoking a ton of it. I smoked a quarter ounce a day. It kept becoming more and more and more. But the dope I was smoking back then was about 8% THC, right? Okay, the pot they're smoking today is so much more THC that it's almost not recognizable as the same drug.
Right.
Right. And this is the kind of thing, now they're doing
anal shots.
They're doing with alcohol. I was about to say
Was
that,
you?
and I wasn't
Sorry.
sure exactly how to say that nicely.
No,
that'll do it, right? They call it butt shots or butt rockets. These are people that literally take a turkey baster and inject vodka or bourbon in their backside, which if it just sounds weird to you, well, number one, it's weird, but there are more mucous membranes, and the ability for things to pass through those membranes and get into the bloodstream, it's more effective than the stomach, right? The stomach is going to process some stuff out and move it along, right? Well, nothing's going to move along once you put it there. It's going to park there forever until all of that stuff gets sucked up, and kids are dying from this.
Yep.
This is a very dangerous
really is.
thing.
It was a college thing, and I know that I live in a college town, and they actually had an article in our local paper about our local college. It was an epidemic over there for a while. They would and I know this is going to sound kind of crazy, and then we're going to let Brandon talk here in just a second.
Yeah, we absolutely.
Yeah, even if we go over tonight, we're going. I'll let Brandon talk.
I know, because I got one I got to do too.
Okay.
Go ahead. Finish up.
But anyway, they were actually standing on their heads and having their partner just like dump it right in their
backside.
Yeah, it sounds nasty. I can't imagine how much that would burn either. I just don't get it. Can't be good.
It's not something. It's not a road I want to go down,
right,
or even would have wanted to go down in the old days. I feel blessed. Aaron Jones, who I've spoken to one-on-one a couple of times. Aaron's a great guy, but he is an authority on THC that I reach out to, because he is of the generation that I'm talking about, and he lives in a state where this is wide open. It's the wild, wild west. There's you can go and buy this stuff legally on every street corner, and I didn't believe what he just wrote until he did a little verification that some wax pens and stuff can have 99% THC.
Yeah.
And when he said that the first time, I said no. Because I had heard basically what someone else said, 30 to 35%.
Yep.
And that's about what's on the street. But, when you're talking about the wax pens and this stuff, that's an extract. All they're doing is pulling the THC out of the plant. But again, teens today aren't doing anything like we used to do, right? We used to eat pills. Now their pills are spent.
Yeah.
It's just a different animal. We have, before we go to, Brandon, just give me 1 second. Leslie, we're glad you made it down off the mountain, man. We really are.
Yes.
God bless. I know you had a long day. I know you're going to be tired, but I bet you're going to get a great night's sleep tonight. But we're glad that you're joining the.
Yes, Leslie. Glad you're here.
Yeah, the rest of the world, man. We're really happy about that.
Okay. Now we got Brandon.
Hello.
What's up?
How are you, brother?
I'm good. Hanging in there.
Awesome.
Hanging in there. I just wanted to come I woke up this morning and how did I put it? Depressed was one word I used. I used a few different words depending on which group of people I shared this with. A few of them were kinder than others. But I just woke up in one of those kinds of moods today, and man, if there was any morning where I could have stayed in bed and not came to work and not done what I needed to do, it would have been this morning. And there nothing happened. There's no real reason for it. It just was that morning. Woke up on the wrong side of the bed, so to speak.
You know what? I'm glad you called, and I'll tell you why. Because the way you just described this is so perfect, right?
Yeah.
If there's ever been a day where I would have liked to have stayed in bed and stared at the same four walls, smelled the same air, right? Literally, in those situations where you think, I would rather just stay right here, what you're saying is, I would rather stay in the mindset, right, that I have right now. When you stay right here, 12-step works for me, whatever works, absolutely,
Exactly.
whatever works. I will badmouth nothing that gets somebody to the finish line.
Exactly.
Whatever works. And there are so many parallels between what we do here and the 12-step programs. All of them count on peer-to-peer and group, right?
Yep.
It's just how the group is structured. So, Brandon, you got out of the house, yeah?
Well, I didn't go completely out of the house immediately. I went. We have a tall bar countertop in our house, and there's always a fan on it because I run too warm.
Okay.
So I have fans everywhere. But there's a little fan, and I actually put the fan blowing on my face and just sat at the bar countertop where my phone was still in my bedroom. I was disconnected from everything but my
the spirit.
head. Just having the fan blow on my face.
I'm the same way,
How
Brandon.
long were you in this funk?
What was that?
I said, how long were you in this funk? Good night, Johnny.
It probably only I'd say it lasted maybe the first hour I was awake, maybe, and it was fading.
Right.
But the worst part of it was probably the first 20-30 minutes I was awake.
That's a long one. Most people will say, especially when they can get out of that funk, very often it's about 15 minutes. Now, I will say this. I think if you had gotten literally out of the building, I am so of the firm belief that when you really feel like this is that day, that awful day, a High Island girl, have
Good
a
night.
great night.
Good night, Highland.
When you're really having one of those days, get outside.
Yes.
For real, get
Yeah.
outside. It really does just, think about when you're in your home, you're looking at things that you look at constantly, right? So your
Yes.
brain, that striatum, that thing we're talking about in the brain, right? The reactive part of your dome, you walk by the refrigerator, there's something that your brain automatically thinks of or automatically sends you to do. You walk by the TV, you walk by, and you're doing this so often, right? That you're into that program mode. And the things that are going on in your head aren't things you're thinking about. They're all reactive. And scientists say that usually about 80% of what we do is reactive anyway. So you really got to go out of your way to not be using the reactive part of your brain. But you get outside, spin in circles a few times, right? You can everything you can look at fast because we don't do that very often. And it's not going to go right to that part of your brain that goes, oh, I know exactly what to do, because you don't do that. So there isn't a part of your brain that is going to say, reaction. He does this, I do this. No, that part of your brain's going to lay down for a minute. And when that shifts from back here to up here, now you're into the part of your brain that does the thinking. And when you can separate, from the reactive part of the brain, logic can start coming in. You can start doing the perspective thing.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, I'm having a bad morning. But what's the worst morning of my life? Well, for me, it was
Summer.
the day they called and said my dad was dead, right?
Yep.
That's a 10. How bad is where I'm at right now? If you can get from back here to the front, you have a much better chance of getting through the day. What did
It was
someone
a
say?
1.
Summer said, or call someone you trust. That's a very good tool to use.
Call someone you trust outside.
Yeah.
Right? Best case scenario.
Yeah.
Get outside and call one of us.
It's exactly what you should do. I mean, sometimes it takes somebody else to say something to you to get you in the right frame of mind, to get you thinking right. But change your environment, we talk about that a lot. Just change anything that involves your senses, change it.
Niles said something that I think is key too. He says, if you never want to leave the room, Brandon, well, then do something creative with the walls. Hang stuff up, paint the walls, paint the door. I want to tell you something.
Hey.
That's literally just what Mark is talking about.
Yep.
I know people that viciously reorganize everything in their home on a regular basis. I mean, they won't go more than 4 or 5 months until they're going to redo everything. They're moving furniture to different rooms. They're repainting walls. You know, lamps are going to get taken down. New ones are going to get put up, because it's like when you know, anyone who's ever moved from one place where they live to another place, right? For the first 6 months that you're there, it doesn't even feel like a real world, right?
No.
And the reason it doesn't, the reason that everything you feel like I can conquer, like I am going to do so well in this place, is because there's not that reactive part of your brain that as you're driving by the bank, you're like, that's where I pull out the 200 every time I'm going to see the guy to get smacked. That's the bank that's the bar I passed out in when I was doing this, right? So all of these things that trigger us go away, you know? So change your perspective, getting away from where you're at, redecorating, any of
I'm
these
a cleaner.
You're awesome.
Yeah, me
A
too.
cleaner.
I
clean the
used to be a
house.
messer, you know. I used to wade through like 3 feet of dirty clothes until I couldn't move anymore, and then I would do laundry. It would take like
Oh,
20 days.
goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you what, guys. I mean, this has been a great live stream. It really has. I really enjoyed this one. I know Tommy has. I can tell because he's fired up. I can tell he's fired up. He loves it, and I can see it on his face because we're helping people. You guys are, when you guys come in here and tell us that we're helping and that you guys are helping each other and stuff like that. That's the same, like Tommy says so much, as the end of the plunger. Boom. That's the same thing for us, and it really is.
I noticed it as soon as, I mean, that 20 minutes was up. The first thing I thought about was, man, there's a live stream tonight. We're going to make it there. It'll be 5 o'clock soon enough.
That right there is cool to hear.
I love
My
it.
God, that's cool to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, for real, right? I mean, that really is.
Yeah, and all the
I can't begin to
crew.
tell you how good that feels.
The crew should feel good about that. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
wow. Yeah. So yeah, man. Yeah, Brandon, you're awesome, dude. You always bring something good here anyway. And we're sorry that you didn't get in last night. Felt bad about that.
It's okay.
It was bad.
Freedom Fighter. I got to answer this question before we do. Freedom Fighter asks, is it better to quit every drug at once, right? All your addictions at once or one at a time? I'm going to tell you an opinion. I have nothing scientific to back this up. There's some empirical stuff that I've watched, but I'm not giving you, when I tell you that there's science, when we're talking about the striatum, I'm not making that stuff up. Somebody smarter than me figured it out. This is simply my opinion. I think trying to quit too many things at once sets you up to fall back to one. Like, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes. I'm going to quit doing heroin. I'm going to quit doing this. And then you have one cigarette and you go, screw it. I already relapsed. Right. And it tends to lead people all the way in. I always joke when someone says, I quit doing, speed and heroin and I'm not going to drink anymore. I always say, well, you should stop cursing and treat people better, right? Don't pass gas, right? Don't burp. You're setting yourself up to try to do so many things at once that I don't think that you're setting yourself up for the best, right? I would knock out the most dangerous one, the one that's got the best chance of killing you, or the one that is doing the most damage to you. Because once you start, you get, even 7 or 8 days under your belt of being chemical free, you're going to feel like you're walking on sunshine. And when you go to attack the next one, you're going to do it, with your chest puffed out a little bit, feeling like this is something I can do, but don't put the big one off to the end, because very often those big ones could take you out,
Yep.
Brandon, thank you, my friend.
Oh, of course.
I really
Thank
appreciate you
guys.
calling in. And you know what, people, if you ever want to pay attention to what I think is really a solid example of a phone call, if there's something that happened to you that you worked through, or if there's something that is continually coming up and you're struggling with, like when Brandon comes on and talks about this, I guarantee you that by the time we're done getting views on this, there's going to be 25 people who go, same thing happened to me 2 days ago, or the last time that happened to me, I didn't get out of it, right? These are the kind of things that when we talk about here on the boat, It benefits all parties involved. So, Brandon, great call, man.
Love you,
Really
brother.
appreciate
Love you,
Thank
man.
you.
You have a good
Love
night,
you
bud.
guys.
People, we ran a little late. Big Red Button will be mad at us, but it is
Nah,
what it is.
it'll be
If they
just fine.
buried this, it was a great video.
Yeah,
I don't care.
share it out, guys.
Yeah.
Share it out. Let's beat
Yeah,
that red
share
button.
this. We might need it. We will be back tomorrow night. To all of you that said some really sweet things about the boat, and I really appreciate it. And Sig and everyone else who
Who's donated,
donates
yeah.
is humbling stuff. It really is, people. It's
Truly
humbling
is.
stuff.
And we are working on
But,
memberships, guys, just so you know. I'm still working
We
on
are
that.
working on memberships. We're working on a couple of different things. We're definitely going to get some cards. I know that Tommy said there was I didn't get a chance to read it, but he said, boy, he's really excited about the concept of having something that we can hand out to people. And I think it's a great idea. We
That's
didn't
awesome.
come up with it.
No.
The crew came up with it
Yeah.
and reached out to me over the weekend. And I think it is absolutely a great idea.
If you guys
So-
want any specific perks for memberships, let us know, please. Please let us know. Okay? Just so you know.
Okay. So we will be back tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be doing the same thing. And thank you so much for everything you guys do. We really are the luckiest people alive. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
And always, that is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.